throat.
Good evening. My word, this is a full chambers. My apologies for being a couple minutes late. I couldn't find my my hairbrush, so I just called it good and came in. Welcome to the June 10th, 2013 Washougal City Council meeting. I would ask that you all please rise and join us in the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you. Rose, could you call the roll, please?
Councilmember Boger?
Here.
Councilmember Plinsky?
Here.
Councilmember Greenlee?
Here.
Councilmember Lindsay?
Here.
Councilmember McDaniel?
Here.
Councilmember Shoemaker?
Here.
Councilmember Freeman?
Here.
Thank you. We did, just prior to this meeting, we did have a workshop meeting from 5 o'clock to 6:30. During that workshop meeting, we received an update to the Regional Transportation Council's work. We also discussed a couple of items that are on the agenda tonight in regards to the Parks Capital Facilities Plan and setting a public hearing for a future meeting for that. Also some miscellaneous code amendments and setting some hearing times for that. And also talk about some proposed ordinance changes regarding barking dogs that we will deal with this evening as well. And that brought us to this meeting. Are there any, before we get started, just so folks know, and I announced this last time, I'm not undergoing any cancer treatments. We yesterday had a St. Baldrick's event for a young lady here in the community, a little 9-year-old Sammy Menderos, who we had a neat little opportunity, some of us to shave our heads, some that are out in the foyer that did the same yesterday. So we did this as a fun little thing within the community and something that raised a lot of money for some research for children's cancer. So are there any amendments to the agenda for this evening? Okay, hearing none, we're going to go to our first. Oh, David?
If I may, please, I'd like to pull item number F, Agenda Bill 2113 for discussion.
Okay, we'll deal with that when we get to the consent agenda. But are there any other amendments to the agenda?
Nope.
Okay, going to our first order of business this evening, a presentation to a couple of our police officers. If I could, Chief Swinhart, there he is. I didn't recognize him being bald. Absolutely. Chief Swinhart, if you'd come up, Chief Mitchell, if we could have Officer Lehman, Officer McPherson come on up to the front. And while we're at it, if we could, every other member that we have here of either the fire or the police department, troopers, certainly yourselves, if you would, come on forward up in front of the staff table and we'll kind of bring everybody to the forefront here.
You guys can face whichever way you want. Whichever's more comfortable. Mr. Mayor, Council, thank you. Wait for everybody to come in here.
Some good support here tonight.
Mr. Mayor, Council, thank you. What I'm going to read before you tonight, right now, is a letter that's actually was sent by our Division Chief of EMS, Cliff Free, back on May 8th concerning the actions of these two gentlemen here in front of us. And the letter speaks volumes about everything that took place, so I'll just read from it if you give me just a couple minutes here. Was written attention to Alan Cook, Washougal Police Commander. This letter is a citation of merit for Washougal Police Officers Dan McPherson and Jesse Lehman. In the early hours of May 6, 2013, Officers Dan McPherson and Jesse Lehman were dispatched to a cardiac arrest on 53rd Street in Washougal. The officers arrived to find an unconscious male who was in cardiac arrest. The officers began CPR, applied an AED, which is an automatic external defibrillator, defibrillated the patient, and continued CPR. Shortly after, EMS arrived and took over patient care. At the time of the first EMS assessment, the patient was found to have an active pulse. Advanced life-saving measures were continued by EMS, and the patient was delivered to the hospital via ambulance alive and in a stable condition. The quick response and competent interventions by Officers McPherson and Lehman singularly saved this patient's life. I believe the action of these officers is a testament to their dedication to their job, to the community of which they serve, and speaks to the quality of their character and service. And is signed Division Chief of EMS, Cliff Free. And I would just add from my own experience of being a paramedic for a long time, what these two officers managed to accomplish out in the field is something that doesn't happen very often, even for us that spent our careers in emergency medical services, and they were at the right place at the right time and were able to use their training, the equipment they carried to really make a difference in this person's life. So for that, we are grateful for the help that you gave us in making us be successful and also in helping save the life of a fellow citizen here in Washougal. And with that, I'm going to turn it over to Chief Ron.
Thank you, Chief. Council, Mayor, like the Chief said, we don't do this that often. So it's something that we're trained to do, and it's one of those skills that we have in our bag, but it's usually the EMS guys that get there first. So tonight, I'm very proud and pleased to commend you for your performance of duty while you were assigned to patrol the evening of May 6, 2013. And again, at approximately 0020 hours, which is 20 after midnight, you, Officer Lehman, and Officer McPherson saved the life of a 36-year-old person by deploying the AED and performing CPR on basically a clinically deceased patient. Because of your swift actions, the person was brought back to life where he could be stable enough to be transported to the hospital for further care. You are commended for your outstanding performance of duty. By your meritorious services, you have upheld the highest traditions of the Washougal Police Department. So tonight, it's with pleasure that I can present you with the Life Saving Award, which is our medal and band that you would wear on your uniform. So each of these is a certificate for each of you. Mr. Officer Lehman. Thank you. For Mr. McPherson. And then each of you will be presented with the Life Saving medal. One guest speaker that would like to speak. The patient, Mr. Dodge, is here and would like to say a few words. Mr. Dodge, it's very nice to meet you again.
Didn't know they were going to ask me to say a few words. I'm honored to be here. That night of the 5th, my heart stopped beating, and that's not usually a good thing. All the doctors in the hospital told me that only 1 out of 20 people that have that happen survive. And these two officers were there on that night and did everything right at the right time. Their response was amazing. From what I'm told, they were there probably within 2 minutes of the 911 call. And those precious seconds most likely saved my life. This experience has helped us and our family. It's made us stronger. While it's been a difficult time and there's no permanent damage to me going forward, other than now I have my own defibrillator in my chest now, so you guys hopefully won't ever have to do that to me again. It'll do it for you. This has made our family stronger, and Heavenly Father has blessed me with more time here on earth to be a father and a husband and spend time with my kids. It's helped restore my faith in people. It was never gone before, but this community is amazing. Within a day, our baseball team had organized food and rides for our family. The church and family helped organize a fundraiser garage sale for us so that we could help pay the medical bills that are going to be coming our way. I was in a coma for a week and in the hospital for 2 weeks recovering from this, but I can't possibly be a happier man right now to be here, and every day is special. Every baseball game and softball game that I get to go to, means just a little bit more. And every good grade that my kid brings home, my kids bring home, just it's that much more special. And you know, I think my wife especially, she recognized there was a problem. The odds of that's a miracle in itself, to call 911, and then these two officers, of course, being the first there and bringing me back. I'm going to keep this brief. I thank everybody in the community. It's amazing, especially these two officers. Thank you for allowing me the opportunity to still be here, and I'll cherish that forever. Thank you.
Chief Swinhart, would you go ahead and come up front? Kelly, you're back there, even though you're in civies. Come on up for a minute. Trust me, come on up. Members of the fire department, Rod, Earl, would you guys come up? As the chiefs said, this is something that these officers are trained for. In the case of Officer Lehman, we also have to give some credit to the State Patrol that we stole him from. We did some training with him as well before we were fortunate enough to have him on our department. To have these kind of stories, a lot of people ask us at different times, is it fun being an elected official? Is it fun being a council member? Is it fun being a mayor? Sometimes not a lot. These kind of days, the days when you cut your hair off for a little 9-year-old, these are the days that elected officials can be very proud of the folks that we employ and what they do. Clear down to the chiefs in operating their departments and ordering vehicles and making sure that standard equipment in those vehicles are the AEDs, to the council that approve those budgets that have, you know, you look at it and you say, how can a car cost that much? Well, there's a whole lot more in that car. And right now, there's a life in one of those cars that unit was pulled out of. Yeah. So there's a lot of people that play a role in this. We're just fortunate that we have folks that know what to do with it when it really counts. So I want to give a couple minutes here. It's going to lengthen our meeting by a few minutes, but I think that's fine. And I want to do two things. Number one, I know we've got a number of the press here and some of the families that have got cameras. If we can consolidate and get your pictures as you would like to do, but also for everybody that is in first responder status, if you would, maybe we could do a little reception line, and you two get to be the bride and the groom for the moment. Mr. Dodge is your witness. Thank you for being here. And let's do some congratulations the right way with handshakes and that type of stuff. Council, if you join as well. So you two, however you'd like to put yourselves, or if you want to you want to do pictures first to those with cameras? And come on down. Jennifer, Dave, Connie, Joe, come on down. Go.
Watch yourself. You fell and I saw it.
You gotta come to this side. No. Yes. Yeah. Don't go far.
Nice to meet you. What's your name? Bryce. Nice to meet you. Dan.
Troy, don't go far. first responders that we have here, if we can get you all up in this section.
I can see that.
Okay, everybody's gonna have to scrunch together. That's maybe the short one in front. Brian, what do you Council, we're gonna stay out of these ones and we're just gonna let all the first responders be in there. Mr. Dodge, is there someone you wanna bring your family?
I'll just stay over here because I'll end up in pictures. See, you're in the picture. Try not to get back in the picture.
I figured standing next to you would be good for my reputation.
You're so sweet.
Wait a minute, let's not lose Mr. Dodge. He's gotta get up here.
Yeah, really. Let's not lose him now. I want to meet you. Gotta get out.
This is one of them. Can't be this when you go on vacation. Okay. I'll block that out. Holy smokes.
Everybody got them? Awesome. Thank you for indulging us in doing all that.
Oh, what a great car. It'll last forever.
Hopefully, I mean, it's got to be 20,000.
Yeah. Yeah.
And this would like to start. In truth,
Great. Yeah, Friday would be good. Okay. Yeah, because tomorrow I have a conference I'm working in the afternoon, and then Thursday I'm helping out all the other schools for the end of the year stuff. But yeah, Friday morning would be great.
okay.
Amazing story about this guy.
Well, of course, the thing that's also really true is that it's luck of the draw as to which one of those guys. Oh, sorry.
Dan, you're shaking a little bit there.
Every one of those guys.
Yeah.
Or a barber.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Which?
Oh, Friday is Flag Day.
This is where you get to know your neighbors.
Yeah, exactly.
And this guy right here.
The other officer.
Great job.
Good job.
Okay, let's go home. Nothing can beat that.
Yeah, let's conclude on a high note.
Let's conclude on a high note.
Yes. I went into that little boutique finally. That's like right next.
Isn't it amazing how popular the rest of us are?
Yeah. Well, see ya.
Thank you for allowing us to do that. Those are really what this stuff is all about. Okay, moving along in the agenda. Public comment. Any members of the public that would like to address council? Randy, come on up. If you would, give us your name and address.
I really don't know if this is improved in time. It's about a couple of stop signs I'd like to propose. And
Sure.
Sure.
speed bump. I'm Randy Hatton. I live at 403 45th Court. I've been a member of the Washougal Society my whole life. We have a nice little neighborhood up there. At the east end of Gifford Place, it goes right into the new Kerr Park. And we've all been enjoying the park tremendously, but there's been some extra traffic, as you might expect. We've noticed, living on the corner of Gifford Place and 45th Court, some near misses, a lot of children on bicycles during the school year, let alone the upcoming summer. We would like, I'm speaking for several people in the neighborhood, families mostly, that are concerned about kids' safety and cars and trucks. At the east end of McAllister, where it enters 45th Court, we'd like to see a new stop sign in that corner. Where you're going south on 45th Court and you come to Gifford Place, we'd like to see a stop sign there. And then possibly a new speed bump somewhere on Gifford Place. It's a long stretch of road, and the speeds are exceedingly faster and faster. So I made a little diagram. I was told to come tonight and present it to somebody, see what could be done.
Awesome. Jim, could you go ahead and take that and make sure, Randy, is your contact information on there?
Thank you.
You bet. Randy, is your contact information on there?
No, I'll write it down real quick. Thank you.
That would be awesome. Jim, will you coordinate with the police department on those?
Yes.
Okay. Other members of the public that would like to address council? Not your final opportunity. We will have another opportunity before the end of the agenda. With that, we'll move on to our consent agenda this evening, consisting of 6 items: our workshop minutes of May 28th, our council minutes of May 28th, our regular accounts payable claims in the amount of $277,271.91, Agenda Bill 1913, an authorization for the mayor to sign a memorandum of understanding with the International Association of Firefighters, Agenda Bill 2013, setting a public hearing for miscellaneous code amendments, and Agenda Bill 2113, setting a public hearing for our Parks Capital Facilities Plan. I have heard a request to pull item F, the Parks Capital Facilities Plan, off and bring it on to the regular agenda. Are there any other items that you would like to discuss under consent?
Mr. Mayor, I ask unanimous consent that we approve the consent agenda items A, B, C, D, and E.
Hearing no objection, the consent agenda is adopted with those items. Agenda Bill 2113, setting a public hearing for the Parks Capital Facilities Plan. Mitch?
Thank you. This agenda bill is an update. It's for an update, set a hearing for an update to our Parks Capital Facility Plan. This would set the hearing for, June 24th at 7 p.m. And the item is just to set that hearing date this evening.
Okay. Council?
Move for
Go ahead.
approval.
Second.
I've got a motion and a second for approval. Council discussion? Dave?
If I may. 2 comments. One, on Section 2, Chapter 4 of this particular document, it talks about the possibility of regional parks approach. And I just wanted to make sure that people are aware of that. And after seeing what Washougal got from its increase in the regional library assessment, I'm not in favor of regional government approaches in general, and I'm particularly opposed to a regional approach to parks. Regional government defers to large population areas and shortchanges smaller jurisdictions like Washougal. And that's a nationwide phenomenon. Regional government is not accountable to Washougal voters, who would be a small portion of the voters within the regional government's area. The other objection I have to this is in Exhibit A, page 6, Washougal Municipal Code 17.08.005, Principles for Good Neighborhoods. Number 6, one should be able to live in the neighborhood without a car. This is an approach which has euphemistically been labeled smart growth. It's anything but. It goes back to a book that was written in the 1950s called The Ideal Communist City. The idea is to create dense neighborhoods, and I don't think that's what Washougal wants or needs. So I understand we have a public hearing coming up, but before we go forward with this, I'd certainly like to see number 6 dropped from the document. I recognize that there's we may not control when the regional issue of regional parks, a regional approach to parks comes up. So I'll just deal with that one when it comes up. But the smart growth approach to anything doesn't appeal to me. I wouldn't vote for anything like that, and I would ask my colleagues to support me in removing this particular provision from this document. Thank you, Mr. Mayor.
You bet. Paul?
Could I get an explanation of what is actually on the table?
Is setting the public hearing.
Thank you.
I think, Dave, as far as procedurally, I think it's probably more appropriate for it at the public hearing time if you want to change items in the document when you're actually getting to the point of approving it, modifying it, amending it, that type of thing would probably be more appropriate, but
I recognize that what's on the table at this point is the public hearing.
it's just the setting of the hearing.
However, what I'd like to do is to see that provision removed before it comes back to us for the public hearing.
But I believe what's coming forward to you are the recommendations, although we have some disagreement in the recommendations from your advising bodies, both the Parks Board and the Planning Commission.
None of which touch on this particular issue.
Other council comments, discussion? Okay, I've got a motion and a second to set the public hearing for June 24th for the Parks CFP update through, well, yeah. We're setting a public hearing for June 24th at 7 p.m.
Will you entertain an amendment?
Certainly.
I propose to amend the document to remove Section 6 of Exhibit A, page 6, the portion which says one should be able to live in the neighborhood without a car.
Do you want to make that in the form of a motion?
I so move.
Your Honor?
Yes.
That section that Councilman Shoemaker is referencing is actually in the miscellaneous code amendment section, not the Parks amendment on the automobile.
Can you clarify the distinction for me?
It's in the Agenda Bill E, not Agenda Bill F.
So we've already
Pulled
put
the
that,
wrong
we've already
one.
put that on the,
It's in the code,
It's in the miscellaneous code amendments.
here, it's in letter F, I mean E, we pulled F.
My mistake.
Do you want to make a motion to reconsider item E?
I move to reconsider item E. Thank you.
Second.
I've got a motion and a second to reconsider item E off of our Agenda Bill 20-13, miscellaneous code amendments.
Only to the extent to delete this particular provision from it.
So your current action is a motion to reconsider. Any council discussion? All those in favor?
Point of clarification, please. I'm sorry. We are discussing the reconsideration
Correct.
of Agenda Bill number 20-13.
Correct.
And, sorry, what is the motion? Go
It's
ahead,
just the
please.
reconsideration.
Just the
Do you-
reconsideration.
Do you want to go back to it or not?
Thank you.
All those council members in favor?
Of
Aye.
reconsidering, aye.
Any opposed? Motion carried. So for the moment, we are going to go back to Agenda Bill 20-13.
And thank you for the tutorial.
Mitch?
Thank you. This agenda bill is to set a public hearing for our miscellaneous code amendments. There's 35 proposed amendments that seek to clarify code language, remove redundancies, add new language relating to fire impact fees and school impact fee, capital facility plan timing, and then that's really the thrust of that. And then the agenda item before you this evening is to set a public hearing for June 24th at 7 p.m.
Council?
In the list of code amendments, which item number is it? In the list of code amendments in the spreadsheet, which item is it?
I think I can help with that, Mitch. It's in Exhibit A, page 6. It talks about Washougal Municipal Code 17.08.005. And that is the principles of good neighborhoods, and item number 6 is the issue.
Isn't that current language?
Thank you. Yes, it is current. That is current language. The only thing that we're proposing to add to this section is in the preamble, really, is that administration of this title may be guided by the following principles when applicable. So that is existing code language that you're talking about for removal.
And so in any case, may be guided as opposed to shall be guided.
Yeah, previously there wasn't any language. It just listed what they were. And now we've added language that says that.
But to put a fine point on it, this language does not make that consideration a requirement.
Correct.
It does make it a possibility, however.
Mr. Mayor, it is current language. I agree with Mr. Councilmember Shoemaker's sentiments. I think it's kind of dumb for the city of Washougal to have it in there, and I would entertain at some point coming in and maybe deleting it, because it, we're not Manhattan, we're not even, Vancouver. I mean, as far as a possibility of this really working, except in a very few select neighborhoods. I mean, I've actually taken the bus to work in Vancouver sometimes, and it's a 1.5 mile walk to the bus stop. So
Downhill.
uphill when
Uphill
you come home.
Because we live in the same neighborhood.
That's
In fact,
right.
You two are neighbors. Live
So
across the street from each other.
I just don't think it's, I know it's aspirational and all that, but we're not a high density city, and it's just not, I think it makes us look a little silly, frankly.
Yeah, and
Yeah.
I think that's what the recommendation was, is that it would be put on the list of the next round of miscellaneous code amendments and removal.
Good with that.
I believe the question from the council member is to remove it before this item comes back to us at council for the next meeting.
What we're suggesting is that it's an amendment that should go through a process of public notice, public hearing with planning commission.
Legally
SEPA.
should.
Yes.
And I would agree with that.
I would agree as well.
Concur.
Okay, so, thank you, Mitch. So we have had a successful motion to reconsider the item. If I'm hearing everybody correctly, this would be reconsidered at a future time to pull that item out separate from the public hearing that we are setting. Would I have a motion in a second now to reset that hearing?
That's not the motion.
No, I believe the motion would be just to go ahead and set the hearing, so I think the proper, and correct me if I'm wrong, Mr. City Attorney, the proper thing now would be to approve the balance of the consent agenda unless we still have something with item F to talk about. Yes. So I would move approval of the balance of the consent agenda items E and F.
Second.
I've got a motion and a second to accept items E and F of the consent agenda, Agenda Bills 2013 and 2113. Any further council discussion? All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. Okay. Brings us to Agenda Bill, new business and Agenda Bill 2213, to hold a public hearing and adopt an ordinance regarding street vacations in the area of the Port of Camas-Washougal.
So as you may remember, the Port of Camas-Washougal submitted a petition to the city for a vacation of some streets near Wesley Ford and the boat parking area down in the marina. And before we can vacate streets, a public hearing must be held. So this is the culmination of all the workshops that we've had on this issue. If you may recall, this issue was brought to the council's attention on March 11th, 2013. And at that time, there was a request by the council for legal determination whether or not the city is able to surplus property without asking for compensation. And we did come back with a legal opinion that said that was the case. And so now I'd just like to open the public hearing and ask for any questions.
Okay, with that, I will open the public hearing and ask any member of the public that would like to speak to item 2213, a vacation of properties within the port, to please step forward to the microphone. Second call for any members that would like to address Agenda Bill 2213. And third and final call for anyone that would wish to speak to Agenda Bill 2213, vacation of right-of-way properties within the Port of Camas-Washougal. Okay, hearing none, I will close the public hearing. Council?
Mr. Mayor, I ask unanimous consent that we read the ordinance by title only.
Hearing no objection, so ordered.
An ordinance vacating portions of Adams Street, AKA Front Street, Washington Street, Columbus Street, AKA Columbia Street, and First Street and an unnamed street in the city of Washougal.
Mr. Mayor, I move that we pass, post, and publish the ordinance in the usual manner.
Second.
I've got a motion and a second to pass, post, and publish the ordinance in the usual manner. Any council discussion? Okay, all those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carried. Thank you. Takes care of that one for you, Larry. Okay, and moving to
Good to see you, Larry.
Agenda Bill 2313, adopting an ordinance regarding barking dogs. Don? Dave?
I'll make a few comments. Mayor, Council, as we discussed at the workshop, this ordinance just provides some clarifying language in Title 8 such that the code will most accurately reflect our current enforcement practices. So as I mentioned, this will not make a change in how we enforce our code or interpret our code, but it will just bring some precision to the wording so it's consistent with our practices. During the break, we did make some adjustments consistent with some of the comments from councilors, and so that's on the screen. It is in your Dropbox in the new as a separate item. You'll note there in the top section 808025 in the At the end of the third line, it now says animal pounds and shelters, as was requested by Councilman Greenlee, and that is repeated in the other sections as well. And then in 808050, you'll see a parenthetic qualification about halfway down in the underlined language to mitigate against the concern that Councilman Boger raised about these uses in residential zones. And so the exception is accepted for those that are approved under a home occupation permit. So that will mitigate against that concern, and that language is repeated as necessary in that other section as well. So the recommended action is to read the ordinance by title only, and then to pass, post, and publish the ordinance in the usual manner, the ordinance including this amended exhibit, as opposed to the one that was initially in the packet.
Mr. Mayor, I ask unanimous consent that we read the ordinance by title only.
There are no objections, so ordered.
One other small modification on section 2. It says the ordinance shall take effect after its passage, posting, and publication according to law. Will be 5 days after its passage, posting, and publication according to law. An ordinance amending portions of Washougal Municipal Code 8.08 and Washougal Municipal Code 8.12 relating to regulation of dogs in the city of Washougal.
Mr. Mayor, I move that we pass, post, and publish the ordinance as amended by the city administrator and the city attorney.
Second.
In the usual manner.
Second.
I've got a motion and a second to pass, post, and publish the amended ordinance in the usual manner. Council discussion. All those in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries. Thank you. Okay, that brings us to the second opportunity on the agenda for public comment. Any members of the public that would like to address council? We have a quiet group this evening.
Hi.
Hi, Mark.
Mark Bertel, West Columbia Gorge. I just wanted to say that we, as an organization, want to make sure that as residents have issues with barking dogs, if we could come up with a program to allow us to be a resource to them, to help them work to get their dog quiet, we want to do that so that the dog doesn't end up coming to us. And we've actually got a lot of practice in trying to keep dogs quiet, so we'd be more than happy to work with the city, provide the brochures to animal control and the police, and then be a resource for that individual so that we will try to work with them. So
Be great.
Awesome,
Yeah.
thank you. Rose, could you make sure and make a note to get somebody from the police department involved? Thank you. And before both of you leave tonight, or before one of you leaves, could you make sure and touch base with my wife? Sure. She has something in her car that we keep meaning to drop off down there, and we haven't quite gotten to it, so.
You're not giving away one of your dogs.
Take care of that.
Pardon?
I was
You're
gonna
not
say,
giving
you got
away one of
dogs
your-
in
It's
the
not a
car.
dog, it's not a cat, not a dog, not a cat. Okay, moving to mayor's report. If we would like to continue our discussion from the workshop in regards to town hall topics, or where you would like to see that, that conversation go for June 29th.
Joyce?
Go ahead, Joyce.
Well, I was so impressed with the SEDS for Sight, the run. How many runners came into Reflection Plaza to run? I think they said they had 110 or 120 runners. That's a good visibility opportunity for our city. And I would like to hear what the public has to say about having these events and what we can do to make our cities becoming fun. And I would like to talk about that with the public, of how, because it does relate to tourism, maybe not tourism, but becoming a destination for things to happen.
Okay.
And I think the baskets are lovely. the flower baskets.
When did they appear? I just noticed them the other day.
They're wonderful.
They went up in May. Again, our conversation right now is on the June 29th town hall meeting and topics for that. So hang on to that idea, though, to give kudos to staff.
Well, I think Councilmember Lindsay was saying she would like to talk about tourism at the town hall meeting. I just wonder whether she would like to talk about the topic she brought up at workshop at the town hall meeting.
I would rather have that be more of a discussion amongst the council. I think at that level, it's a council discussion, but I'm open to that. I mean, if the council wants to do that.
Okay, well.
I would like to hear what the citizens have to say about it.
Well, there's no reason we can't have a couple of workshops among ourselves, and then, by then.
But this is the 29th of June is when the town hall meeting is.
Where's my note?
It's the 29th of this month.
Yes, so that,
So you'd have one meeting to have a discussion on the 24th. Too soon?
Well, I think
What do you guys feel?
if there's any hope of, or any possibility, I shouldn't say hope, because I'm kind of, you know, I can lecture on both systems of government, and I don't know exactly which one's right for Washougal at this point, but if there's any inkling of wanting to put this on the November ballot, we better do this sooner rather than later.
I agree. I won't be at the meeting, but I can watch it on YouTube. I'd like to see it discussed, because I feel it's something we want to do, and if we're going to do it, we need to have a lot of discussions, so why not invite the public to be involved in that?
I agree. Because I just would like to know what they think, you know, so.
So postpone the budget talk, bring it to a workshop, and discuss tourism and form of government.
Jennifer?
Yes, I just wanted to reiterate what I said at the workshop, and I absolutely concur. I think that the budget discussion could be deferred potentially to other workshops, and that we should move forward with a discussion about my suggestion, which was an in-depth, open discussion of travel and tourism and promotion of Washougal. I heard a lot of interest from the public as far as potentially a downtown association or volunteers wanting to get together and put something together that promotes the city, whether it's events or whether it's just a group of citizens that you know, carry out assorted activities throughout the town. Whatever it is, but I did hear that at the downtown meeting that we had with Mr. Hickey and Mr. Bishop. So I would like to explore that as a community, and I think that, you know, getting together with our citizens and enlisting their help is very beneficial, and we have the excitement now, so we should work with it. This is the summer also, and we have not much really planned that I know of downtown, so this is the time when people expect things to start happening and picking up in our Reflection Plaza area. But as far as I know, there's not going to be another farmers market this year, so we're a bit lacking in that department.
What about the port? I haven't received their newspaper with summer
Oh, I did.
concerts. You got it?
We've got stuff going down at the port.
I didn't get that.
Mhm.
I
And
better
then
go
there's
check that file.
Yeah, go to the port website, and then, of course, at Hathaway on East Street, they always put up a banner that gives the concert series dates and such, so.
They're up now at the port, they're up here at River Road.
Yeah.
There's a banner at Hathaway, too, I believe.
Yeah, at Hathaway on East Street.
Speaking of tourism, have we ever had any campgrounds open to the public in Washougal? We talked about RV in our
No.
language.
Years ago, it used to be permitted to camp down at what is now called Cottonwood Beach or Captain Clark Park. But since it's been a county park, that's not been true.
It's too bad, it's such a great
I
spot.
don't know that we ever.
So wide open.
I don't believe the city has ever allowed camping down there. I think from the police
That's why it's
department,
called
they pretty
BA.
much discouraged camping down there. Yeah. There are, in the long-term plans now in Phase 2, was in Phase 1 until so much of it got into litigation with the construction company that developed or did the majority of the physical improvements down at Captain Clark Park. There are plans yet unfunded for both the actual RV parking and reservations out on Index Street.
Mhm.
That's why you see those big wide areas
Right.
and things that are set up. There's no electrical in there yet, but that's why some of the restrooms have shower facilities in them as well. And additionally in that, there is some limited, I believe, Larry, just tent camping down inside the park itself towards the river in some of those areas?
Yes, that's correct on the east side.
No vehicle traffic to be down in there, but stuff that could be hand carried over and that type of thing. But again, there's no dollars left out of that construction to either do the further improvements that are needed and/or the bigger question of the reservation system and who would handle that and how would that work and who would get the dollars.
That might be needed to be added on that list, though, for conversation.
Oh, it's more than on the list. It's in the phased plans. There's just no
I mean,
dollars.
as far as our workshop.
I'm sorry.
Town hall,
It certainly works into
Just,
that same topic.
since I won't be there to bring it up.
Yeah. Everybody brings their own. Any other items from council?
Well, I was just going to say, as far as mosquito goes, I know someone on the mosquito control board, so maybe we could
Got connections.
get a special spraying.
Dave?
Two items, Mr. Mayor. First one, I'd like to thank the West Columbia Gorge Humane
Dave?
Society.
Dave, we're still on topics for the June 29th town hall meeting.
I thought you'd opened it up, too.
Okay.
No.
Any other topics from council? When you said that, I was going to jump on that.
So
I
I'm-
wondered about
So he's
that.
talking about town hall.
So at this point, I'm hearing tourism events.
Yeah, I think tourism and events, and I think you bring up an interesting idea in terms of, I'm not sure it's actually something that the city as a city can do, but a downtown downtown association. It's an interesting discussion as to whether it's a downtown association or a merchants association as to how large you make the, and I think that's a very valid discussion to have. Yeah, I'd like to get some discussion. I know some years back, another council member and I talked about a fantasy of having a kayak rental down at Captain Clark Park, but I understand the port has now created facilities, at least for the storage of kayaks down in the marina. So we'll see how that goes. But there's all kinds of things. I know the Camas Bike and Sport, or Sport and Bike, I can never remember which way it is. They have done a remarkable job of creating an interscholastic high school sport that's basically bicycle cross. And I think the state championships were held up at the motorcycle track this year. So there's a whole lot of those kinds of things that we can talk about. That
Okay. So if we go off of what we had talked about previously as far as the process of those meetings, that topic typically would take up about half of it, and the other half would be literally town hall to get any kind of feedback that we've got coming in. Is that?
And we're going to also have a workshop on the 21st? 24th, but before this meeting.
Yes.
So it'll get vetted a little bit in the newspaper, perhaps, before our Saturday town hall.
We look at you, Don.
Okay. I think we've got some direction.
So to make sure I'm
Frantically
tracking.
writing over there.
On the 24th, slot some time in the meeting for council discussion on the form of government question.
Correct.
And then in the town hall, it's a dual topic town hall, form of government, and the tourism events conversation. Did I understand that? Okay. Is the council interested in seeing if someone can come and be at your service on the form of government conversation, or do you want to hold off on that? I just have to have some notice if you want someone to come, MRSC or ICMA.
You know, Bill Ganley from Battleground, who went through the process, I guess they changed in the late 90s to a city manager system. And then I'd also like to hear some advocacy from the mayor council system as well. I want to hear both sides.
Another possibility, although given his profession we might have to actually hire him, is Brian Wolf is city attorney for Battleground and went through that process with Battleground. Previously, he was city attorney for Ridgefield and went through the process with Ridgefield.
Okay, so I'll try to see who's available, let them be aware of one or both of those meetings. Do you want me to check in with MRSC, Counselor? They have something that they've done before, and it basically neutrally walks through and discusses both of the forms. Doesn't necessarily advocate one or the other, but it makes a number of points about each one, and then they are available to answer questions.
Would it be possible to have them at our June 24th first discussion so that they can begin to instruct us on the two types?
I'll inquire.
Rather than at the town hall, and then we would get a real good education that first night.
Right. I don't know when Battlegrounds council meetings are, but if they are on that Monday night, then both Ganley and Brian Wolf would be unavailable.
Yeah. Well, that's...
I think they are on Mondays.
I'm not sure they're on the fourth Monday.
Yeah.
We'll make some calls.
I'll make some calls. When did you want to bring up, Mayor, the other topic that we were thinking about workshopping on the 24th, the news from the assessor, et cetera, in Mayor's report later? Or?
Do you want to take that now?
Just because we're talking about scheduling that meeting. I think we can make it work. Rose doesn't know this yet, but we're going to be scrambling a little bit for the 24th. This is all preliminary information. I think it's important to qualify it in that way, but the assessor, true to his customer service initiative this year, and I think particularly in our case because the assessor was in our community this year physically, which gives them a little bit more insight, has provided us some very, and I want to be very cautious on their behalf, some very preliminary numbers regarding what we might expect to see with our assessed valuation, and the news is very good. Potentially double-digit percentage increase in our assessed valuation. The bottom line is that the council will have some options for 2014 if you want to look at those options, particularly around the levy lid lift, which we've talked about in the past, and I believe at our last conversation there was some indication that that was something the council was interested in because it's something the community has supported before. So what we would intend to do is to present information about what this news means for us in terms of our tax rate and opportunities around a levy lid lift, because as you know, the last 6-year lift expired in 2012. We have been unable to do anything about that. You now have an opportunity even to have the conversation. So we wanted to, and it would be subject, if it is something that you wanted to do, just like this other topic, it's subject to that same deadline that you would have to make a resolution to place it in front of the community by that August deadline. So we'll make it work for the 24th. We'll probably have to leverage our regular meeting for council discussion as well. And we'll present that information and then get direction from you if you want us to pursue it any further. So anyway, we just felt that was good news. It's a sign that the economy is picking up, And we're grateful to the assessor for the customer service and providing us that information, even though it's preliminary and subject to some change, but it's very positive news for the economy, and I'm sure other areas will probably get similar types of information. So we will do our best to make the 24th manageable around all of that.
Thank you, David. Final item I have for you is in regards to an initiative that we're working with the high school and the school district on, and that is to kind of mirror a little bit of what they did within the last year and bringing a student representative from the high school onto basically into the mix of the school board members as well. I've been discussing with Principal Hanson and Superintendent Tarzian if the council sees fit to move forward on the idea of having a process in place at the high school level that would allow juniors basically to kind of apply for and become through a vote of the student body itself, become an elected member from the student body section to this body to sit with you in an advisory capacity, non-voting capacity, would be one where their terms would likely run from January of a given year until the end of December. So they would start as juniors, finish as seniors, but in that process would also allow them to break away from these discussions and these meetings prior to the last portion of their senior year when all of their time gets so precious in there. Certainly want to do a check-in with council, though, and see if that's something that you would be favorable for us to continue those discussions on how that might look and what that might feel like.
I like it.
I do too.
Yeah.
I would definitely support that.
Excellent exposure.
I know
education.
at least from the staff at the school, they've mentioned that the representative for the school board has been helpful on a few occasions, so.
She has, yeah. It's great to hear her feedback as the school board deliberates policy issues, and, you know, in particular when the different principals and schools come in and talk about issues, whether it's with ASB, sporting issues, or whether it's student body issues. This young woman always has something to bring to the table from a student perspective, and I think it's very enlightening, and it's good for the school board to have that sort of feedback immediately as they're discussing issues. And I would think that anyone interested in student government would love to come and spend time here in our council chambers and get a firsthand knowledge of how it actually works within a municipal government. So I'm definitely in support of it.
Good. You know, certainly through our strategic planning process, we were introduced in even greater depth to a couple of our high school students, and I know their insight through that, certainly their poise and their ability to present to adults, everything else probably surpassed anything that we thought was going to happen in there. Interesting side note there is also the high school is taking under, it sounds like now it'll actually fall outside of and begin even prior to high school. They are, for those of us that lettered in high school in any sport or any activity, debate, everything along the way, they're actually creating a letter award for public service and community service.
That's good.
And allowing the students to start, I believe they mentioned at least 150 hours of practicum experience in there, that type of stuff, before they're awarded their letter in that. But they would actually have letter pins, all of that type of stuff, and be able to qualify through that side as well. So all of that kind of falls in along the lines of all this at the same time. Paul?
The only thing I'd like to add is that with only a year, I think the learning curve is such that I don't know when school elections are held for class presidents and so forth. Do you know, Jennifer?
No, I don't.
Pretty early, though.
I'm sorry?
Before school's out, usually.
Right, for the following year. Yeah, that's the way I've always
So-
understood it to be.
What I was thinking is, I like the idea of a January to December term, but I think it also makes sense that you kind of bring the next one in early so that they have a chance to move up that learning curve a little bit. And that also lets us increase the number of people that we have involved, which I think is also a good thing.
That can never be a bad thing.
The January to December term, was that a suggestion coming from the superintendent?
I believe that was put more than a suggestion. I believe that was one of those, we would probably require it to be this.
I see.
So.
Don't think we have a choice there.
And that's only because of the time commitments that are on the students as seniors going into the last 2 or 3 months and all of their projects, all of their everything else going on. They said that's really the only way that they would see it being successful, so. Okay, that's all that I have. Council members. Brent?
No, nothing.
Karen?
I just want to say that we went to the Parks Foundation luncheon, Paul and Joyce and Sean Gard and I. Last week, and we were the big recipients of a $24,000 grant for Heartwood Park, and we're going to have some really awesome play structures and climbing equipment for that park, so it was really exciting.
How much did you say it was?
It was $24,000, just shy of $24,000.
Yeah, 23,000 and a lot of change.
Yeah.
Nice.
We just rounded up. So that's it.
Well,
yeah, the Parks Foundation luncheon was fascinating because this is, I think, the 6th one that I've been to, and the first one I went to, all the previous ones have been over at the Water Resources Center, and the first one, they didn't fill half the room. And this was in one of the large banquet rooms at the Hilton, and they filled the room. The first year, the grants were on the order of $12,000. This year, the total grants were $71,000. So the Parks Foundation has really come a long way. Sherry Martin, who's the executive director, has done a remarkable job over there. And there's been a whole lot of community members who have stepped up. So it's really been an amazing addition to our community. I went to the RTC meeting right after that, and Melissa pretty much covered what happened. The biggest topic of conversation was the Census Bureau puts out a map that then determines for federal funding purposes whether an area, whether a street actually or a highway is rural or urban. And to describe what they did as arbitrary does not adequately capture. And I think everyone in the room, on the one hand, was stunned by how odd some of their choices were, but equally stunned by the apparent fact that we have no say in the matter, that this is something that the Census Bureau has absolute authority over, and that's it. And that just kind of brings up one of those things that I think people don't understand about municipal government, is how narrowly we are constrained to operate within state and federal law. There are a whole range of choices that I think people would like us to make that are outside the range of what we're allowed to do. And so it was just an interesting example of that. Then, of course, I'll let the mayor speak about the Citizen of the Year and Business of the Year award. The next night I was at Jemtegard School, where parents and children who are coming in as what they call first-year students in the middle school kind of had a pre-orientation. Dr. Carlson, who is retiring this year, has been principal of that school for the past handful of years. To give you an idea of what he has done and what his staff have done, just one example. Every year there's a group of 8th graders who can take high school algebra. Once they complete that class, they have to take a completion exam, which is a state-administered exam. If they pass it, then they get high school credit, and they also get credit for having passed one of the required completion exams. The teacher who teaches that algebra class to 8th graders has a higher pass rate than any high school teacher in Clark County. And he's teaching 8th graders. That's the kind of excitement that's going on over at Jemtegaard now. It is remarkable what they have done over there. And then Friday I was up in SeaTac for a board meeting for the kind of thing that we do that the public doesn't know about, probably doesn't care. There's a trustee, I'm one of the trustees of the Employee Benefits Trust. The Employee Benefits Trust, the Association of Washington Cities, is a primary health and welfare insurance, or it's not really insurance, provider for small and medium-sized cities. A city the size of Vancouver self-insures, but cities our size on up to, staffs of maybe a couple of hundred insure through the trust. And it was a trustees meeting, and we had a binder of material that was about that thick, and it was dense and difficult, and it is an incredible honor to serve on that board. I'm humbled by the other people who are there. Thank you.
Joyce?
Well, I'm going to say Suzanne Grover of our Parks Department is amazing, and the grant is terrific. It was a kudo for Washougal. This morning I was walking in Captain Clark Park. It was early. It was around 7 o'clock, 7:30, and I stumbled into the most amazing experience. Sam Robinson, who some of you may know from the Chinook Indian tribes, was there with a Chinook canoe on a truck. So I knew something was going in the water. In the meantime, more canoes came in. Our Congresswoman, Jamie Herrera Butler, our ex-congressman, Brian Baird, was there. It was a lot of the Chinooks. They're taking these canoes, there were 4 of them, very elaborate, up the river to the mouth of the Columbia. It's a 5-day trip, and it's called First Event, Welcoming the Salmon into the River. So there was a blessing and drums and singing. It was incredible, and I just happened to be there. So I felt very pleased about that, and I thought, we didn't know this was happening. I mean, nobody knew, and it was really an amazing thing on our beach. And here our city has a Chinook name, and so anyway, it was a marvelous experience for me.
Thank you. Jennifer?
Yes. I also attended the Chamber of Commerce banquet to honor the Citizen of the Year, Norm Paulson, who is a friend of mine. I sit with him on the Washougal Schools Foundation board, and I think it's been a long time coming for this gentleman to win an award such as this and to be recognized for all of his activities and services that he provides to various community services. And, in addition to being past president of the Chamber of Commerce, past president of the Rotary, and past president of the Washougal Schools Foundation, he has donated quite a bit of his time to local nonprofits to set up 501c3 status, and he continues to do tax preparation for them year after year at no charge. And he's just a fantastic person. Lone Wolf Development was recognized as well as a Business of the Year in addition to the Bigfoot Inn. So it was a huge win this year for the city of Washougal, and I was very, very proud to sit in the audience and be a part of that and watch, all of these wonderful people get up and receive their awards, and very, very proud to be a Washougal citizen, especially that night. Also, I attended the Hike on the Dike for West Columbia Gorge Humane Society. And if I can put Mr. Fertel on the spot for a moment, I would really, really like to know about how much you raised, if you can give us a figure, and how many people registered, and just overall how the event went in your opinion.
Well, first of all, thank you for the city for loaning us cones, and thank the port for loaning us garbage cans. And couldn't have gone better. We actually doubled last year's intake, so so far we're at $11,000 and money's still coming in. So fantastic. Next year, using the Pendleton Woolen Mill parking lot was fantastic for us. We want to do that again, and we think we can make it twice as big next year. So I don't have all the numbers on the amount of walkers and everything, but I will get that. I'll make sure that I make that prominent to everyone. And while I'm up here, real quickly, we've sent in an application for August 17th. So we want to do a big event. We want to close the entire city of Washougal down, and we want to bring in the Mustang Car Club and do a dog and pony show.
You want to close down the downtown?
Downtown.
Not the entire town.
Not the entire city, just downtown. But we think we can bring in well over 100 cars, hot rods, and which means we're going to bring in well over 1,000 or 2,000 people into the downtown area. We're trying to get a corporate sponsor. Not going to mention the Ford dealership that I'm going after, but anyway.
Sorry, what was the date again, Mark?
What's
What
that?
was that date again?
August 17th. So we've got an application in. We think this could be a huge event for the city and for us, and if that goes well, next year we'll get the Corvette Club to come in too and really make it big. But I think we can rival what Camas does when they do theirs and show everyone a beautiful downtown. I love the baskets too, by the way. So anyway.
Me too. Thank you for bringing that up.
Yeah, so anyway, I just wanted to throw that out there and thank the city for your continued support of our organization.
Now, not to throw any water on your date of the 17th.
Okay.
You realize that is the port concert date as well. Okay. Do you know anybody that has a Mustang? That was a rhetorical question.
Yeah, yeah. Yeah,
Gotcha.
The Mustangs get Main Street and everything else will push off a little bit. So.
Is there, Larry, do you remember what time the port concerts start that day? They're still late afternoon, evening, correct?
There are events that start as early as 2:30, but
On
they're...
the 4th.
Oh, yes, on the 4th.
Let's maybe make sure and touch base with the port to see if we can't co-promote those two events and see if there isn't some way that we can allow some parking area maybe for those down there if, once they finish here, if they want to go down there and partake down there, that we have some kind of display space if there's some way for us to do that. Cool.
I'm done. Thank you.
Okay. David?
A couple of items. First of all, thanks to the West Columbia Gorge Humane Society for the good work that you do for our community. Very much appreciated, especially about the barking dogs. It's been a long. I know that's a major issue in every community. You have my sympathy dealing with it, and my support. Secondly, a public safety meeting. The next one is July. We didn't meet this month. It's on the 15th of July. It'll be at the police station, and it's at noon, and the public is welcome. My colleague, Mr. Greenlee, mentioned the range of discretion that cities have because of restrictions put on us by the federal and state governments. Absolutely. And that raises an issue for me. It's called local control. I would like to see that discretion that we have increased and the level of regulation that binds us from both the state and the federal level decreased. And I'll be working with our state legislators this coming year to work on that. Finally, Mr. Mayor, in that labyrinth of parliamentary procedure that commenced after the motion to reconsider, I lost track of how that issue of the question on the principles of good neighborhood. principle number 6 was going to come back to us?
It'll come back through future code revisions coming through community development. It's actually, in order to actually consider that one, it has to be put out there, vetted, done all the way through individually.
So it'll come through the planning commission?
Come back up through the planning commission, and it goes back to the start of the process again. And just like these miscellaneous ones, they're throughout the year. Mitch is keeping track of quite a few of them that either need cleanup or readdressing, that type of stuff, and it goes back into the hopper.
Mr. Mayor, can I make a suggestion on that? We're going to have the discussion on this ordinance next week, or 2 weeks from now. Why don't you, Councilmember Shoemaker, bring it up again, and if there's a consensus or some kind of direction on council to have the Planning Commission look at that, I think that would be the appropriate way to just to formally express that desire.
Thank you.
I believe you've already done that through.
Well, I don't know if a majority has. I mean, or if everybody has.
I'll bring it up and take my chances.
Yeah.
It's already
It's on
done.
its list, and typically those.
He's saying it's already done.
Those revisions,
Okay.
no, it's not done, but it's on the list.
That's
Keep in
what I
mind,
thought.
typically those revisions don't come from within us anyway.
Right.
As far as this body, they come back to you, but are generated other
But
directions.
sometimes I've seen city councils, they see a problem, they just say, start the process of fixing this.
Yep. Dave, anything else? Connie Jo?
Thank you. It's great the way we support our city, and I love the way we support the animals. I think, and I know you would all agree with me, that supporting unborn children is a top priority in our city. And our local Camas Washougal Community Pregnancy Clinic, which is rebranding itself, they're calling themselves Pathway, so you'll hear both Pathways, plural. You'll hear both of those names in the future, are having a fundraiser and a community involvement event called Run for Your Life. And it is June 22nd, coming up just around the corner. It's changed this year, though. It used to be a little walk around Old Camas, and what they're doing is 3 options: a 1-mile hike, a 5K run, and a 10K run. So all of you runners out there, now's your chance to do something local. And you can, of course, sign up on their website, communitypregnancyclinic.org. So that was the first one. Second one is CTRAN meeting tomorrow night. We had a really great turnout talking about the CRC at the Coast Guard recently. That was a privilege to attend a meeting run by the Coast Guard. Very formal, very well attended, and so that was great. And this next meeting for CTRAN is tomorrow night. So don't stay home. The fun isn't over. You can have another full night of meetings. Second thing about CTRAN, I have to say, my son, you hear me talk about my son Taylor a lot. He rides the bus system because he doesn't drive. He's 23. And he came to me a while back and said, "Mom, have you seen our bench? And do you think we could get a cover?" Because he's like, his mom, he hears me talk about CTRAN all the time. His mom now has some kind of a pull with CTRAN. So I said, "What are you talking about?" So we were in the car together, and there's a picture on the top of our bench. Pitiful. That's right out here on Evergreen. Well, it's probably D Street. I can never keep track of when it makes that curve. It's just a stone's throw west of 32nd on Evergreen. And it's plywood. It was falling down. It was just removed this morning or sometime today. I know CTRAN has come to the city and is going through the process with planning. No, it's not. I could tell by the look on your face it wasn't you. It's somebody in the city. Might be Public Works. Anyways, show the next picture, because this is what we're going to get from CTRAN. It's not the dog or the handsome man in the suit. But I just have to laugh at this. This is a promotional picture from C-Tran. Now, I want to know what businessman in a suit is going to take his little puppy with him on the city bus. It's really pretty kind of a goofy ad, but you see the pole in the middle is the sign for the bus stop, and then it has a little bench for people to sit on. So that is being proposed. You know about this, right, Dave?
I heard it from you today.
Well, I'm going to
So
talk.
I
I'm
don't-
going to call Lynn at C-Tran and say, what? He told me he's working with somebody with the city.
Then I don't doubt that, but
Wouldn't you like one of these over that other?
yes.
Okay, good. We're gonna-
Actually, we'd love to have the covered ones, but
The covered
C-Tran
one is-
told us years and years ago that those were never coming out here, other than the one that's outside City Hall.
Well, who knows? If
I don't-
the squeaky wheel gets the oil. The covers and all that are really based on ridership. And so that's what we get down on that corner for now, until the ridership picks up. But
I don't believe even the wooden one that was falling apart, I don't believe that was provided by C-Tran.
no, they said it wasn't their property.
That's a homemade one,
Mm-hmm.
because they wouldn't put anything out there.
Yeah, well, they're going to give us this as long as we are willing to work with them. I'm going to talk to Lynn about see who it is he's working with, so you guys can rest assured. So I'm pleased to have a hand in that one, and my son too. He was very pleased. And then he looked at me and said, "Mom, I asked for a cover, not a bench." I said, "Oh, I got that wrong." So that's all I have. Thank you.
Thank you. With that, I would entertain a motion for adjournment.
So move.
Second.
Got a motion and a second. All those in favor?
Aye. Aye.
Opposed? Motion carried. Thank you.
All righty.